Blue Jackets have a chance to break their 4-game losing skid tonight against Chicago, and good news, they have got reinforcements as a bunch of players are healthy again. We're going to talk about all of that and more in today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. Let's talk about CBJ hockey. It's back. We made it. We survived 2 whole weeks without it. And it looks like it's going to be an interesting one tonight. The Blue Jackets are back nationwide, which is great news. They are extremely good on home ice this season, and less good not on home ice. But it's fine. They're on home ice tonight. That's what counts. Against the Chicago Blackhawks, who continue to struggle this season, in a way that is unsurprising, but probably frustrating to a lot of Blackhawks fans, right? Like, you look at who they've surrounded Connor Bedard with. It is unsurprising. They are currently, if I flip to league, they're currently 31st in the league. They got 41 points with a record of 17, 31, and 7. They are the only team worse than them is the San Jose Sharks, who are just, they're having a time at the minute, but Blue Jackets can't get complacent with this game. We talk about this a lot. The Blue Jackets have a tendency to play to the level of their opponent, and the level of their opponent right now is not good. So they have to not do that. It'll be interesting to see if it's rest versus rust. I think rest is probably going to win out, if only because it's given guys a chance to get a little bit healthy. Obviously, Kromachenko is in the lineup. I think 20 days after breaking his jaw, 19 days after breaking his jaw. Wild. Boone back after missing basically the entire season. Dante Fabro back after missing 3 games plus the 2 weeks to heal. Zach Werenski has not had time to rest, but honestly, that might be better off for him. So it's going to be a different lineup for the Blue Jackets that we've seen in the past couple of games. Like, there's some good additions, there's some interesting additions, but for the most part, should be a fun game. The Blue Jackets have previously beaten the Blackhawks. They played them December 1st and beat them 6-3 in the first of 2 matchups. Sean Monahan, goal and an assist. Obviously, he's missing in this game. Cole Sillinger, multi-point night. Zach Werenski, multi-point night. Damon Severson had 3 assists in that game. And Elvis Merzlikins had 3 goals on 31 shots. So, interested to see how Severson does in this game. Would love to see Elvis Merzlikins have a good game. I think he's probably due. I'm just going to pull up his stats. Okay, in fairness, he has had a 900 or above save percentage in his last 2 games. So, yes, they lost in overtime to Utah. They lost against the Rangers, but neither of those were Elvis's fault, let's say. So hopefully, again, the rest for him, I think, is probably also going to be a good thing because, we've talked about this a lot. Elvis is not the most durable goaltender in the world. He gets tired a lot. He gets sick a lot. He gets injured a lot. So having 2 weeks off where he has done nothing but hang out with his wife and his kid is probably a good thing. And hopefully he's rested and ready to go tonight because we could use a good Elvis performance tonight. Again, I don't think, and maybe this will come back to bite me, the Chicago Blackhawks are not the most potent offense in the league. They are if I flip to the league showings, they only 4 teams have scored fewer goals than them this season, and only 4 teams have allowed more goals. So it's it'll be an interesting one for sure. But I think the Blue Jackets can come out on top for a variety of reasons, and like I said, should be an interesting game. I want to talk about some of the players in a little bit more detail, but before I do that, I did want to mention also, in terms of the Blue Jackets getting healthy, Eric Branson joined the team on the ice for the optional morning skate this morning. Obviously, this does not mean that he is ready to go in any way. He's been, I think this is his first time on the ice since the injury, since the surgery back in October. Honestly, I didn't think we'd see him again this season, so this is also good news. Sean Monahan skated by himself today and has apparently been skating for a little bit here. So again, that's good news. Both of those guys continue to recover from upper body injuries. Sean Monahan with the wrist, Eric Branson with the shoulder. Would love to see those guys back sooner rather than later, especially Monahan. I can't wait to get Monahan back. Gabranson, I think, is going to create a really interesting issue for the Blue Jackets, which is, which defenseman do you take out of the lineup for him? Like, the answer is probably that you take Christensen out and move Provorov back over to the left and plug Gabranson in there, but I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would do that, but the Damon Severson continues to frustrate me in a myriad of ways, but that contract, man, got to live up to it someday. That being said, great to see Branson out on the ice. Like I said, I didn't think that we'd see him again this season. I thought for sure he was done for the year, so the fact that he could be back before the end of the season is good news, and it's probably good for him as well. I feel like if you miss an entire season, it's so tough to come back the next season. Like, how many guys do you see that like miss the entire season and then they come back and they're absolutely fine the next year? You know, like losing a whole year of hockey, especially at his age, is not necessarily like the end of days, but I feel like it's tough to come back from. So seeing him come back is definitely good news for him, if not for the team. But it's it's good news for the team as well. I'm not going to sit here and say that Gabranson like moves the needle in a big way for this team, but the team clearly loves having him around. And I thought he had a really good season last season because he was playing where he was supposed to in the lineup, right? He didn't have to play a bajillion minutes because everyone was injured. Limited minutes, good news for Gabranson. And again, I think he'll get limited minutes if and when he does make his comeback this season, just because the Blue Jackets are a lot deeper on competent defense this season than they have been in previous years. So I don't know when we're going to see Gabranson back. My guess is it's still going to be at least a couple of weeks, if not more. But like I said, good news that he is on the ice at all. And we'll keep monitoring that. Let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, I want to talk about the Blackhawks, who to watch out for, who is not named Connor Bedard specifically, and what my thoughts about the game are. So we'll do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about the game tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. Like I said earlier, the Blue Jackets have already beaten them once this season, 6-3 on December 1st. The Blackhawks are kind of in a bit of a rut at the minute. They're 3-3-4 in their last 10 games. Now, the Blue Jackets are 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. They're coming into this on a 4-game losing streak. Blackhawks lost their last game before the Four Nations break in overtime, or in the shootout, excuse me, and then had a win the game before that. So they are technically the hotter team right now, if only they've had a win more recently. But the Blue Jackets still have the edge over the last 10 games, and also like over the season in general, if we're being brutally honest. Their leading point scorer right now is Connor Bedard, surprising no one. He's got 49 points in 55 games. Had a bit of a slow start to the season, but seems to have figured it out recently. Second place, Teuvo Teravainen, which did genuinely surprise me. He's got 40 points in 55 games. It surprised me because I feel like all I've been hearing about is what a terrible signing that was and how they shouldn't have done it. And bringing back old players never works out, etc., etc. But like he's second on this team in points. So what can you say in terms of like who's hot at the minute? Teuvo Teravainen, 5 assists in his last 5 games. Ryan Donato has 8 points in his last 5 games. 4 of which are goals, 4 of which are assists. So, again, like this team is not particularly firing on any cylinders when it comes to offense. But Ryan Donato is on a pretty decent hot streak at the minute, 37 points in 53 games. So a real big jump from where he was at before that, which I believe was 29 points in 48 games. 37 to 53 sounds a lot better. So hopefully he does not continue that streak. Like obviously Connor Bedard is the danger here. They are doing their best to surround him with players that know how to play hockey, but not like it's not great in Chicago. It's not like the best situation ever. And they look like they are on track for another top 3 pick, which maybe they'll draft someone that can give Bedard some help. They have the pieces. The pieces just aren't ready. They're where the Blue Jackets were a couple of seasons ago, except the Blue Jackets did not have a first overall pick to make the rest of the team look so bad. It was just kind of miserable all around. So I think the fact that they have Bedard is what's really kind of highlighting the weaknesses in the roster, right? Like if you have a roster that's just bad top to bottom, then it just kind of is what it is. But if you have one player that is so clearly head and shoulders above everybody else, I feel like it really highlights the fact that, man, you got to get this kid some help, right? And he'll have some help eventually. Like I'm really high on a bunch of the Blackhawks prospects. Like I like Frank Nazar a lot. I like Oliver Moore a lot. They've got some pieces. I like Kevin Korchinski a lot. He's still down in in Rockford at the minute. But it'll come. It's just frustrating right now, I think, for Bedard specifically. Another name that I wanted to focus on, Seth Jones, is in town. He has been injured a lot this season and also is not on the trade block necessarily. I think he wants to leave and the Blackhawks are working with him on that, presumably because they have a little bit of buyer's remorse from when Stan Bowman signed him to that giant contract. They're going to have to retain on that, but we'll see what happens there. Dallas seems likely, especially with retention. He's got 4 years left on his deal, and he plays 1 million minutes for the Blue Jackets. So it'll be interesting to see Jones versus Werenski tonight, because I suspect that they will be matched up more often than not. And those are really like the quote unquote big hitters for this team. I don't know which goalie we're gonna face in Chicago. I could see if I could find that out real quick. The backup has better numbers than the starter, which is, never really a good sign. But they're also kind of rotating on a 1A, 1B situation here. Peter Mrazek has played 31 games. Arvid Soderblom has played 25. So, it really is kind of a 1A, 1B situation. Mrazek has an 897 save percentage. It is 10, 18, and 2. Soderblom, 7, 12, and 5 with a 906 save percentage. So, it's not... there's not, a massive difference in there. But I personally think that it would be good to face Mrazek. And it looks like he is going to be the starter based on their morning skate lineup. Just to go back to the Connor Bedard thing, it looks like despite the fact that Teravainen is second on the team in points, he is on the third line. Bedard's line mates right now are Ryan Donato, which makes sense, and also Landon Slaggert, who I think just made his NHL debut very recently. He's got 6 games so far this season. Yeah, that was his season debut. He's 22 years old, and he's got 2 goals, 0 assists in those 6 games so far. So clearly they are... Oh, sorry, he made his season debut last season. I can read a chart, I promise. But 6 games so far this season, still very young. They seem pretty high on him, and hopefully they're hoping that he can gel with Bedard, former third-round pick. So he's not necessarily a guy to keep an eye on, but I am going to be interested to see how he does. Because again, like, they are just desperate to give Bedard literally anything, right? So again, we'll see how it goes. The Blue Jackets would be in their best interest tonight to keep it at even strength. The Blackhawks have the 8th best power play in the league and the 7th best penalty kill in the league. So if the Blue Jackets can avoid both taking penalties and drawing penalties, that probably bodes well for them. Even with their good power play and penalty kill, the Blackhawks are still 28th in the league in goals for per game and 30th in the league in goals against per game. So, like, again, if you can keep them off the power play, that's good news. I don't think, the Blue Jackets power play has dipped recently. It's now 18th in the league, where it was kind of hovering just above league average. But the penalty kill for the Blackhawks is good enough that, like, honestly, you're probably better off facing them at even strength, where they have struggled this season. Blue Jackets continuing to basically score goals at will. They are the highest scoring 5-on-5 team in the league still, I think. So, like, maybe if you get offered a power play, you just turn it down, which is what I used to say in seasons past when the power play was just miserable. I was like, honestly, what if instead of the power play, we just play 5-on-5, because you'll probably get a better result. But that's kind of the guys to watch for Chicago. Obviously, it's just kind of Bedard and co. But I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be interested to see Werenski versus Jones. I'm also going to be interested to see Bedard versus Fantilli. Obviously, Bedard first overall in that draft, Fantilli third overall, but was an option at second overall. Like, that was where a lot of people thought he would be going. So we'll see how those two match up against each other. It should be an interesting one. Going to take another quick break, and then I'll talk about who to keep an eye out for the Blue Jackets, who's going to have a big game, who we hope has a big game, all that good stuff in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Who to watch out for? Well, not who to watch out for. Who to keep an eye on the Blue Jackets? Who needs to have a good game? Who's hot right now? All of that stuff. Shocking no one. Zach Werenski is one of the hotter players on the Blue Jackets right now. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games. Missed a game due to injury. It was the Buffalo game, I believe. He got banged up versus Dallas, missed the game against Buffalo, and came back, played the 2 games before the break, and then played extremely well in the Four Nations tournament. Hopefully he's still riding that high. He led the Four Nations in scoring, 6 points in 4 games, all assists. And he's on a 21-game home point streak right now. So we're going to, cross our fingers and knock on wood that he makes it to 22, because that's a really fun stat that I am enjoying a lot. Zach Werenski's leading the Blue Jackets in points at the minute. He's got 59 points in 55 games. Second place, Krolbachenko, who's going to be back. He missed the last 3 games with a broken jaw, has 55 points in the 53 games that he's played. He's leading the team in goals with 21. Having him back is great news. He's also, I believe, still leading the NHL in plus minus. Now, plus minus is kind of a stat that doesn't mean a lot. I think there are definitely uses for it in terms of looking at like if you take plus minus into account when you're looking at other things, right? Like you can't just sit here and be like, well, he's got the best plus minus in the league. That means he must be the best player in the league, right? There was a year, God, going back now, it might even be like, almost 10 years ago now. Alex Ovechkin had like the second worst plus minus in the league, but no one was going to be like, well, Alex Ovechkin is bad, actually, right? You've got to look at it in terms of other stats. But Marchenko, a plus 31 on the season, leading all Blue Jackets forwards in scoring, leading all Blue Jackets in goals, like on a career year. Is not even shooting like above average, really. He's shooting at 14%, which is not like a crazy like deviation from the norms. He's also doing this while only taking 6 minor penalties this season. Like, which, hey, maybe in contention for the Lady Byng. We just don't know. But Marchenko, really, really important that the Blue Jackets have him back. Like, I don't think that the team lives and dies by Marchenko, but the fact that they are, with him out of the lineup, they are 0-3, or like 0-2-1. They lost in overtime to Utah a couple of games ago. But a lot of the offense clearly runs through him. I think Voronkov is going to be thrilled to have Marchenko back. I think he's a better player when he has Marchenko on his line. And Adam Fantillion and Marchenko have really hit it off as well. So, like, I'm glad that top line is back together. And hopefully we'll have some fun at the Blackhawks' expense tonight. Another guy that I want to talk about, Boone Jenner, back in the lineup, making his season debut. He's going to be on that second line with Cole Sillinger and Kent Johnson, which I don't hate as a concept. I like Johnson and Sillinger as a duo a lot. I think that probably another skill guy on that line isn't the worst. I feel like Jenner and Sillinger kind of inhabit the same role there, but the team's really high on Jenner, and I think that having another guy on that line that can win faceoffs is also not like the worst thing in the world, right? Like Cole Sillinger is still young. Like faceoffs are tough for a young center. He's currently sitting at 46.4% on the season, so he is losing more than he's winning, but is still one of the top faceoff guys on the team, which is very funny. I think he's third or fourth on the team. And we're counting guys that like occasionally play center in that, but the only regular centers that are better than him, Sean Monahan at 51.5, Sean Corelli at 52.3. So he's doing better than some of the other centers on the team. But having Boone Jenner there to take a face off now and again is, like I said, not the worst thing in the world, because there was a minute there where Boone Jenner was inhabiting the role of, well, no one else on this team can win a face-off, so what we're going to do is we're going to put him out there, he's going to win the face-off, and then he's going to skate like hell towards the bench so we can get an offensive player on, which does not always work. Like, I think we saw that in, maybe specifically in the Utah game, where they sent Sean Corelli out because no one else on that team knows how to win a face-off at the minute, and he didn't get a chance to get to the bench for an offensive player to come on. So it's burnt them before. Will it burn them again? Almost definitely. But having Boone Jenner back is good news, and I'm excited to see how he does. I don't think, again, I'm not expecting like a complete like masterclass from Boone Jenner. It's his first competitive game since about this time last year. He played some preseason before getting injured, but give him a couple of games to get up to speed. And again, I think playing the Blackhawks is a pretty good get up to speed game, especially the next game is Dallas, and then they're going into a game in Detroit against the Red Wings, and then the outdoor game, both of which are going to be, huge games for points, and then also, the outdoor game, national scale, right? So it's not going to get any easier than it is tonight, right? Like, this might be the easiest game left on the schedule. They still have to play Nashville once, and they have to play Buffalo once, but as I mentioned in yesterday's episode, every other game this season is against either a team currently in a playoff spot or a team within 6 points of a playoff spot. And like, that's partially because the East is stupid, and there are like a bajillion teams within 6 points of a playoff spot. Like, the only team in the East that's not within 6 points of a playoff spot is Buffalo. So, like, Boston, both New York teams, Montreal, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia are all within 6 points of a playoff spot, and the Blue Jackets as well, obviously, who are a point out of the playoffs. Currently held by Ottawa, and the other wildcard spot held by Detroit. So again, those 2 games against Detroit are going to be huge. They still have all 3 games to play against Ottawa as well. Like, it's going to be tough. Like, there are no more easy games this season, right? Like, even the Blackhawks game, the Preds game, the Sabres games, like, they're not easy games, but they are games. So you've got a chance to win, right? You've already beaten the Blackhawks once this season. You took a point from the Predators in overtime. You lost to the Sabres. Like, all 3 of those games are winnable. Tonight is especially winnable. And I'm going to go ahead and say that the Blue Jackets do it. I'm going to go ahead and be a little bit boring, and I think it's going to be another 6-3 final score. And who's going to score a goal? Let's actually, you know what? Let's go with a fun option. I think Mathieu Olivier is due a goal. It's been a minute. Obviously, he has over exceeded his expectations this season by doubling his career high in goals already. But I think he's overdue a goal, and I think it would be fun to see him get one tonight. So that's honestly, he might be a Gordie Howe candidate tonight. The Blackhawks have a couple of guys on their roster that will go. Like, I could see him fighting Pat Maroon. I could see him fighting Nick Foligno. I hope not. Like, I feel like Tyler Bertuzzi will drop them if some nonsense happens. But like, let's go ahead and let's pencil Mathieu Olivier in for at least one of those 6 goals. I think it'll be fun. I love when Mathieu Olivier scores goals. It's my favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing, but it's up there, you know. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll break down tonight's game. Hopefully, we'll talk about more of the good than the bad and the ugly, but tune in then. I've been Jake Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTEI. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. And if you have any comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockdownbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. And until then, make sure you stay locked on.